So this video is on the 3 things that really matter for happiness. And I sometimes call it the BPR model, which stands for biology, psychology, and relationships. And as I'll walk through in this video, what you gotta understand is really like your happiness, your quality of life really comes down to these 3 things: biology, psychology, and relationships. And I'm sometimes challenged because what I'm giving, like, I do a lot of speaking and training on the topic of happiness and happiness at work. And it's like, how do I get people out of there with something that they can take away in 60 minutes, or in the case of this video, like 10 minutes? And that's what I'm going to walk you through in this video. So let's get started. Now, the fundamental idea is that happiness, like anything else in the universe, follows the laws of cause and effect. Right? There are causes and conditions that lead to things. You know, if you have a seed and you have soil and you have water and sunlight, you get a plant. And so happiness is no different. If you understand the causes and conditions that lead to happiness, so you kind of identify them, and then you cultivate those causes and conditions, happiness emerges, or happiness arises. And so these are kind of the 3 biggest buckets from the research that I would say are those causes and conditions that if you water them, so to speak, you will be happier. So let's get into this model. There's really 3 things: biology, psychology, and relationships, like I said. So I just going to draw it out. You have biology, psychology, and you have relationships. So a little bit of background on each of these. Biology is kind of like the physical substance or the physical foundation for positive emotion. I mean, think about it like this. If you were a millionaire and you had all this money, you were super successful, so your psychology too was really good, you were very positive and optimistic and generally a pretty content person, and you had a great family and friends and all that, but for some reason you were stranded in like a random airport that didn't have any restaurants, and so you hadn't eaten in like 48 hours, and you were up for 2 nights in a row trying to catch flights, so you haven't slept, you haven't eaten in like 48 hours. How are you gonna feel in terms of your happiness level? Probably not very good, right? So a lot of times we have to understand is there's like a physiological foundation. Same thing if we're like super sick or we're worn out or we have an injury, we're probably not going to be all that happy. But, right, it's not just about this. The same can be said for all of those, right? Same example is if you're a millionaire who's like a fitness influencer and you're in super good shape and you do all your meditation every single day, but you've got no loved ones in your life, right? You have no partner, you have no family, you don't really have any close friends. You're probably gonna be kind of lonely and miserable, right? So these things all relate to one another, but this is, I believe, the foundation, right? Is your kind of biology. And there are certain factors that are non-negotiable, right? Like I said, the causes and conditions that every human being needs to flourish at a biological level. So these are things like exercise, good nutrition. I'm going to put sleep. But this is also actually some interesting study here on light and dark exposure as well. And then you might even just say like, health in terms of your immune system and things like that. But let's talk about some of the basic things here. So exercise. I love this thing I heard from Tal Ben-Shahar. He's a leading expert in the field of happiness studies. He said, look, if I were a therapist or something, the first question I'd ask people is just, are you exercising? And what he said was a total reframe of my perspective. He said, because it's not about even making you happier. It's just, as human beings, we're designed to move. We're designed to exercise. So if you're not exercising, you're not even at baseline levels for your mood and energy. So again, it's not even about being happier. It's like getting you to baseline levels of happiness and well-being. Gotta exercise. There's studies that show that about 3 bouts of 30 minutes of moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise are equivalent to an antidepressant in terms of their effectiveness. So the idea here is get regular exercise. I recommend probably something about 90 minutes of cardio every week, a couple of weight training sessions, and some stretching. But get exercise. Nutrition. There's some research out there that links quality nutrition, of course, to improved physical health, but also mental health. There's actually even a couple studies by a researcher I named the name of Felice Jacka that looks at how people who eat a higher amount of fiber or vegetables and kind of healthy foods in that sense tend to experience improved levels of mood and overall well-being. Of course, sleep is essential. It's a non-negotiable for our physical and mental health. And you can sometimes think of this as a little formula that I've found helpful for sleep is QQRT. This comes from Dr. Matthew Walker, one of the world's leading sleep scientists. He says sleep health is really about quantity, quality, regularity, and timing. So quantity, you need to be getting enough, probably at least 7.5 hours. Needs to be good quality, so you're not waking up throughout the middle of the night, you don't have sleep apnea, etc. Regularity. This is surprising, but it actually turns out to be quite important for our sleep health that we keep a fairly consistent schedule to the extent possible. So going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time. And then timing refers to aligning your sleep cycle with your natural disposition. Some people genetically are more like early birds. They want to get up at 5:30 and they feel really alert. Others are more night owls. They want to get up at like 9 a.m. and they feel really alert. And then, most of us are somewhere in that range. So to the extent possible, again, trying to align the timing with your natural state. Light and dark's also important. Morning sunlight helps to regulate your sleep cycles. There are studies showing that people who actually don't get adequate darkness at nighttime also have worse mental health outcomes. So your biology here is just saying, what are the basic foundational things I need to do to keep my physiology in order so that I can be happier overall? Okay? Next, let's move on to psychology. So this is really about thoughts and emotions. Right? Those are the two things that kind of govern our happiness when it comes to our minds. And again, I could write an entire book on this, but a few simple protocols you can consider are things like meditation or breath work. Meditation has been found to be mindfulness, has been found to be one of the greatest tools that we have in our toolkits for reducing all causes of stress. There's an interesting study published in Cell Press that looked particularly at what you may think of as a type of meditation. Actually, it's really a type of breath work called cyclical sighing. So you breathe in like this. Second one, and then sigh it out. People do that for about 5 minutes a day for several weeks, and they improved their mood overall and decreased their levels of anxiety. Could be getting therapy, right? Or even if you don't see a therapist, learning something called cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a toolkit to help you more effectively manage negative thoughts and unhelpful mental patterns. It could be, doing things that help you feel a sense of meaning or purpose, like volunteering or, getting a strengths assessment and using your strengths to serve something greater than you. That's been also shown to be a source of meaning and purpose, the psychological satisfaction. And of course, you have like flow, right? Which comes from just doing things that are fun, doing things that you enjoy and you find interesting. So again, there's a lot I'm throwing at you here, but it's just saying, I'm going to do something frequently to invest in the psychological dimension of my health. How can I improve the quality of my thoughts and moderate or manage negative thoughts? How can I spend time in more positive emotional states, cultivating those, and reduce my time spent in unhelpful emotional states? So this is all basically emotional intelligence and managing your own thinking. So there you have it. And then relationships. So this is probably the most important bucket, actually. And a mentor of mine once told me this little bit of advice. He said, you need to find a good partner. Okay, so find a partner who really you can just trust and count on no matter what. Find a partner who makes you laugh. They have a good sense of humor. And find a partner who's good in bed, because that matters too. And then he said, no matter what happens though, make sure you don't let these 3 people find out about each other, because that'll be a disaster. I'm teasing. What you really need to understand with relationships, though, is that the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. I'll say that again. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. This is, I would actually say, the number one most important variable when it comes to happiness. And the reason I say that is because the longest running of adult happiness and health from Harvard University, you can look it up. It's called the Grant Study. It's been going on for almost 100 years. They looked at people across multiple generations, all these different backgrounds, and they found that quite literally what I said, the quality of your relationships is the only really significant thing that predicts how happy you are and how long you live and how healthy you are. So again, both our health and happiness, the number one driver is the quality of your relationships. Right? So these are doing things like number one, learning what makes good relationships, communication styles, how to develop nurturing connections and trust and support, all that, but also just dedicating time to invest in those relationships. So you now have a model here, right? BPR. This is it. If you have all of these things, you're going to be really happy. And if you have none of them, or even if you're missing some of them, you're probably not going to be really flourishing. So it's like, what can we do about this? Well, I always say, time management is my favorite thing to work with people on, because it's like knowing all of this intellectually is like 10%. We're back. So knowing all of this intellectually is like 10% of the whole thing, right? What you actually need to understand is how to go from knowing it intellectually to actually doing it. And that's the hard part. So the simplest, again, 1-minute version of this protocol I can give you is like, just turn this into a checklist, right? Write it down. Biology, psychology, and relationships, write it down, because the mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. If you try to keep it in your head, it's like, oh, I should exercise more, I should probably read more, I should stay in touch with friends more. It's kind of like, how many times have you done that? You're like, yeah, I should probably do something around this, I should lose weight, I should talk to... What, you never do it. So you need to write it down. Keep it somewhere on your pillow, on your desk, something where you will engage with it every single day. There's a written plan in front of you, and then do something every single day to invest in each of these buckets, right? It's almost like each one's a little bit like a fund or an investment account, and you want to invest a little bit in each one every single day, watering the seeds of happiness. And you don't have to do this huge thing, right? It could be, hey, for 10 minutes in the morning, I'm going to get outside, get some sunlight, and go for a little jog. And then for 5 minutes, I'm going to come in, I'm going to write down a few things I'm grateful for and do a little meditation. And then for 5 minutes before I leave for work, I'm going to, say hi to my husband or wife, my son or daughter, my whoever, and just, say I love you and I'm thinking of you. And just like that. What would that do for your life if you were to do that every single day, 20 minutes? Investing in each of these three things, it would be brilliant. It would be magic. And so if you say, I don't know, about 20 minutes every single day, if you don't have 20 minutes for your happiness, you don't have a life. I'm sorry to tell you. So whether it's 20 minutes, so a weekly protocol, your gym, your exercise, your eating, you're going to therapy, your meditation, or whatever, your time spent with loved ones, do something every single day. Check off each of those 3 boxes. Non-negotiable every single day, and no matter what happens, you will be happier and you'll have an amazing quality of life. But it's all about going from knowing all of this intellectually to actually doing it. And that's what the BPR model is all about, is turning this into a checklist that you're investing into each of these 3 buckets a little bit every single day. And in doing that, you will learn to be happier, because what did we say at the very beginning? Every single thing has causes and conditions, right? And so if you create the causes and conditions that lead to happiness, then happiness will arise. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video. At the end turned into a little bit of a cluster, but that's all right. As always on this channel, well, first, here's somewhere I'm going to put it. I'll put it right here. There's a video that YouTube thinks that you'll like. But as always on this channel, I try to get really practical with the science. I also sometimes get into some of the arts and philosophy and spirituality. But in either case, it's really about giving you tools to help you be at your best and to live a happier life, which I think we all want. So thanks for watching. This has been Jackson Kirchis. I'll see you next time.